Commander Jake Sullivan stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty and watched the stars change. The space around Earth looked different now. Huge alien ships appeared from nowhere, their dark shapes blocking out the light from distant suns. The ships were bigger than anything humans had ever built. They moved without sound through the empty space, getting closer to Earth with each passing hour. Jake had been in space for 15 years. He had seen many strange things during his time as a commander, but nothing like this. The alien ships looked like they were made from black metal that seemed to eat light. They had strange curves and angles that hurt to look at for too long. Some ships were as long as cities. Others were round like planets. All of them pointed toward Earth. 3 days ago, the first message came. It arrived on every radio, every television, every computer screen on Earth at the same time. The voice that spoke was not human. It sounded like glass breaking mixed with the sound of wind through caves. The words were in perfect English, but the way they were said made everyone who heard them feel cold inside. Admiral Lisa Carter sat in her office at Fleet Command and played the message again. She had listened to it 100 times, but she still felt the same chill each time the alien voice spoke. The message was simple and terrible. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Council. They said they ruled all the smart life in the galaxy. They had watched Earth for a long time and decided that humans were too dangerous to live. The Council said humans were too violent. They said humans fought too much and could not be trusted to live with other species in peace. They said Earth had 7 days to give up completely, or they would destroy every human alive. There would be no second chance. There would be no talking about it. Earth would surrender, or Earth would die. Lisa Carter had spent her whole life in the military. She had fought in wars on Earth and helped keep peace in space. She had seen the worst things humans could do to each other, but she had also seen the best. She had seen humans risk their lives to save strangers. She had seen humans work together when things got bad. She knew the Council was wrong about humans, but she also knew they had the power to end everything. HFY Council's representative appeared on screens across the world the next day. His name was Zexathari, and he was not like any living thing humans had ever seen. His body was made of what looked like clear crystal, but it moved like flesh. Light danced inside him in colors that had no names. His voice came from speakers, because he could not speak in Earth's air. Zexathari told the people of Earth about the Council. He said his people, the Veltar, had been part of the Council for thousands of years. They had helped the Council judge many worlds and many species. Some worlds were allowed to join the Council if they proved they were peaceful and smart enough. Other worlds were destroyed because they were too dangerous or too stupid. The Veltar had conquered hundreds of worlds over the centuries. They had seen every kind of fighting and every kind of weapon. They had faced species that could control gravity, and species that could live in the hearts of stars. None of them had been able to stop the Council's judgment. Earth would be no different. Dr. Helen Brooks watched Zexathari's speech from her lab where she studied alien life. She had been waiting her whole career for this moment, first contact with aliens. But this was not how she had imagined it would happen. She had dreamed of peaceful meetings and shared knowledge. Instead, she was watching Earth's death sentence being read on live television. Helen studied the alien ships through her telescopes. She counted their numbers and tried to understand their technology. What she saw made her afraid. The Council fleet had over 1,000 ships. Each ship was armed with weapons that could crack planets in half. The smallest ships in their fleet were bigger than Earth's largest battleships. But Helen noticed something else about the aliens. They moved their ships in old patterns. They used formations that had worked for them for thousands of years. They acted like they had never met an enemy that could fight back. They were confident in a way that came from winning too many easy battles. President Alex Romano called an emergency meeting with all the world's leaders. They met in secret, deep underground where no alien sensors could watch them. The room was full of fear and anger. Some leaders wanted to surrender immediately. They said fighting was useless against such a powerful enemy. Others wanted to fight, no matter what the cost. Romano listened to all of them and then made his decision. Earth would not surrender. Humans had never given up when faced with impossible odds before. They would not start now. If the Council wanted to destroy humanity, they would have to work for it. The President's announcement was broadcast to every person on Earth. He told them about the alien ultimatum and about Earth's decision to fight. He said humans had always been at their best when things looked hopeless. He said Earth would show the galaxy what humans were really made of. As the deadline approached, something strange happened. Instead of panic, people became calm. Instead of running away, they came together. Humans had always been good at facing the end of the world. They had practiced it enough times in their own history. Now they would do it for real, against an enemy from the stars. The alien fleet moved closer to Earth. Their sensors scanned the planet and its defenses. They saw Earth's small fleet of ships and its primitive weapons. They saw a species that had barely learned to travel between planets. The Council was sure this would be their easiest conquest yet. But they were wrong about humans. They were wrong about Earth. And they were about to learn why humans had survived when so many other species on their own world had not. President Alex Romano walked through the tunnels deep under Cheyenne Mountain. The rock walls around him were older than human civilization, but the technology hidden in these caves was more advanced than anything the world knew about. Alex had been president for 6 years, but he had only learned about Project Prometheus 3 days ago, when the alien ships first appeared. General Ryan Murphy waited for him in a room that did not exist on any official map. The room was filled with screens showing images that would change everything humans thought they knew about their place in the galaxy. Ryan had run Project Prometheus for 20 years. He had kept its secrets, even from his own family. Today, those secrets would finally see the light. The first screen showed grainy footage from 1975. A strange craft had crashed in the Nevada desert. The military had told the world it was a weather balloon, but Ryan knew better. Inside that craft, they had found technology that was centuries ahead of anything humans could build. Instead of announcing the discovery, the government had decided to study it in secret. Alex watched the old footage with growing amazement. The crashed ship had been taken apart piece by piece. Every component had been studied and tested. Scientists had spent decades trying to understand how it worked. Most of the technology was too advanced to copy, but some pieces could be understood and improved. Ryan led Alex to another room where Dr. Helen Brooks was waiting. Helen had been part of Project Prometheus since the beginning. She had studied alien biology, alien metals, and alien energy systems. What she had learned had changed everything humans knew about physics and engineering. The aliens thought humans were primitive, but humans had been learning from alien technology for 50 years. The first breakthrough had come in 1985. Human engineers had figured out how to copy the alien power systems. The energy cores from the crashed ship could generate more power than a nuclear reactor, but they were no bigger than a car engine. This technology had been used to build secret facilities around the world, hidden from public view. Helen showed Alex the second breakthrough from 1992. Human scientists had learned how to make materials that were stronger than anything found in nature. These materials could withstand the heat of stars and the pressure of deep space. The aliens used these materials to build their ship hulls, but humans had found ways to make them even better. Captain Amy Foster was waiting in the next room beside something that took Alex's breath away. It was a spacecraft unlike anything he had ever seen. The ship was sleek and dark, shaped like a blade cutting through water. Amy explained that this was one of 12 stealth destroyers that had been built in secret over the past 10 years. The stealth ships used technology that bent light around their hulls. To any sensor or eye that looked at them, they would seem to be empty space. They could move through an enemy fleet without being detected. They could strike and disappear before the enemy knew what had hit them. The alien ships had sensors that could detect normal spacecraft from light years away, but they had never encountered stealth technology like this. Amy had been testing the stealth ships for 3 years. She knew every system, every weapon, every weakness. Her ship could travel faster than anything in the alien fleet. It could hide in plain sight, and it carried weapons that could destroy ships 10 times its size. The aliens expected to fight primitive human spacecraft, but they would face ghosts that could kill without warning. Engineer Pete Johnson showed Alex the most important secret of all. In a heavily protected room, Pete had built humanity's ultimate weapon. It looked simple, just a metal cylinder no bigger than a baseball bat. But inside that cylinder was technology that could tear apart the very fabric of space itself. Pete explained how the quantum disruption torpedo worked. The aliens powered their ships with exotic matter that existed between dimensions. This exotic matter was incredibly powerful, but it was also unstable. The torpedo could disrupt the barriers between dimensions, causing the exotic matter to explode with the force of a small star. One torpedo could destroy an alien battleship. A dozen torpedoes could take out their entire fleet. The aliens had used this exotic matter technology for thousands of years. They thought it was perfectly safe because no one had ever found a way to disrupt it. But humans had found a way. Human scientists had always been good at finding new ways to break things that seemed unbreakable. Colonel Steve Barnes demonstrated the final secret weapon. He wore a suit of armor that made him look like a metal giant. The powered armor was 8 feet tall and gave him the strength of 10 men. The armor could stop bullets, survive explosions, and even work in the vacuum of space. Steve moved in, the armor like it was part of his own body. The powered armor used alien technology, but it was built with human improvements. The aliens had similar armor, but theirs was bulky and slow. Human armor was faster, stronger, and smarter. Each suit had artificial intelligence that could help the soldier fight better. The aliens expected human ground forces to be weak and poorly equipped. Instead, they would face super soldiers who could fight like demons. Alex Romano looked at all these secret weapons and felt hope for the first time since the aliens arrived. Earth was not as defenseless as it seemed. Humans had been preparing for this day for decades without even knowing it. Every crashed alien ship, every strange signal from space, every unexplained phenomenon had been studied and turned into a weapon. General Murphy showed Alex the final piece of the puzzle. Hidden bases around the solar system held fleets of ships that did not appear on any public record. These ships had been built using alien technology and human innovation. They were faster, stronger, and more deadly than anything the aliens expected to face. The alien fleet was powerful, but it was also the Council had been winning easy victories for so long that they had stopped improving their technology. They used the same ships, the same weapons, and the same tactics that had worked for thousands of years. They had grown lazy and confident, but humans had never stopped improving. Even when they thought they were alone in the universe, humans had kept building better weapons and better defenses. When they found alien technology, they had not just copied it, they had made it better. Human creativity and human stubbornness had turned alien advantages into human weapons. Dr. Brooks explained the alien weakness that humans were ready to exploit. The Council species had all evolved on worlds with stable environments. They had never faced the kind of disasters that made Earth species tough and adaptable. Humans had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and natural disasters. This had made them better at adapting to new threats. The aliens were about to learn that humans were not just another primitive species waiting to be conquered. They were about to face an enemy that had been accidentally preparing for war against superior technology for their entire history. Earth was ready to show the galaxy what happened when you underestimated humanity. The 7th day arrived with Earth's sun rising over a world that refused to surrender. Zexathari stood on the bridge of his massive flagship and prepared to give the order that would end human civilization forever. His crystalline body pulsed with satisfied light as he watched his fleet move into bombardment positions around Earth. In a few hours, every human city would be burning ruins. The Veltar commander had destroyed hundreds of worlds in his long life. He had seen species beg for mercy, offer their treasures, and promise to serve the Council forever. But humans had done none of these things. They had simply said no and prepared to die fighting. Zexathari found their stubbornness amusing, but it would not save them. Captain Amy Foster floated in the pilot seat of her stealth destroyer, invisible among the alien fleet. Her ship hung in space just 3 miles from Zexathari's flagship, but the alien sensors showed only empty vacuum where she waited. 11 other stealth destroyers were spread throughout the enemy formation, each one carrying enough quantum torpedoes to destroy a dozen alien ships. Amy had been awake for 36 hours straight, but her mind was sharp and focused. She had trained for this moment her entire career. The alien ships around her were huge and powerful, but they were also blind. Their sensors were designed to detect normal spacecraft, not ships that could bend light around themselves like ghosts. Admiral Lisa Carter watched the battle preparations from her command ship hidden behind Earth's moon. Her screens showed the positions of every alien vessel and every human stealth ship. The timing had to be perfect. If even one stealth destroyer was detected before the attack began, the entire plan would fail. Lisa had fought in 3 wars during her career, but none of them compared to this. She was about to order an attack against an enemy that outnumbered her forces 100 to 1. The aliens had weapons that could crack planets and shields that had never been penetrated. But Lisa knew something the aliens did not. Sometimes, the smaller force could win if it struck first and struck hard. The attack began at exactly noon, Earth time. Amy Foster pressed the firing button and watched 12 quantum torpedoes streak toward Zexathari's flagship. The torpedoes were invisible to alien sensors until the moment they hit. The flagship's exotic matter core exploded with the light of a small sun, tearing the massive ship apart from the inside. All around the alien fleet, stealth destroyers fired their weapons at the same moment. Quantum torpedoes slammed into alien battleships, cruisers, and carriers. The exotic matter cores that powered the alien ships became bombs that destroyed them from within. In 30 seconds, 47 alien ships died in balls of fire that lit up the solar system. Zexathari's dying flagship spun through space. Its hull cracked open like an egg. The Veltar commander tried to send orders to his remaining ships, but his communication systems were gone. He watched in horror as more alien vessels exploded around him. The primitive humans were not supposed to have weapons that could do this. The alien fleet tried to respond, but they could not see their attackers. Their sensors showed empty space where the human ships should be. They fired their weapons at shadows and hit nothing but vacuum. Some alien captains ordered their ships to retreat, but they did not know which direction was safe. Lieutenant Ben Clark piloted his fighter through the chaos of the burning alien fleet. His mission was to destroy the alien communication arrays that let the different ships talk to each other. Ben's fighter was too small for stealth technology, but it was fast enough to dodge the alien weapons that fired blindly into space. Ben's fighter danced between the explosions of dying alien ships. He fired his missiles at communication towers and sensor arrays, blinding and deafening the enemy fleet piece by piece. Other human fighters joined the attack, swarming like angry insects around the massive alien vessels. Dr. Helen Brooks monitored the battle from her laboratory on Earth. Her screens showed the alien fleet formations breaking apart as ship captains tried to escape the invisible attackers. The aliens had trained for thousands of years to fight enemies they could see, but they had no idea how to fight ghosts. Helen watched the alien response patterns and saw exactly what she had expected. The council species had grown soft from too many easy victories. When faced with an unexpected threat, they panicked instead of adapting. Their formations scattered, their communications failed, and their coordination collapsed. Commander Jake Sullivan led the second wave of the attack from his ship, the Liberty. While the stealth destroyers struck from hiding, Jake's conventional fleet attacked from the outer solar system. The aliens turned to face this new threat, not realizing they were falling into a trap. The alien ships that moved to intercept Jake's fleet ran straight into a minefield that had been laid by human ships weeks earlier. The mines were designed to look like space debris until alien ships came close. Then they exploded with enough force to cripple even the largest alien battleships. Jake watched as alien dreadnoughts, ships that had conquered entire star systems, limped away from the minefield with their hulls torn open. The aliens had expected to fight desperate humans with primitive weapons. Instead, they were facing a coordinated attack by an enemy that had been preparing for this battle much longer than they realized. General Ryan Murphy coordinated the attack from deep inside Cheyenne Mountain. His screens showed the results of 50 years of secret planning. Every alien weakness that humans had discovered was being exploited. Every human advantage was being used to maximum effect. The alien fleet began to retreat after losing half their ships in the first hour of battle. Zexathari, trapped in his dying flagship, sent a desperate message to the Council's homeworlds. He told them that the humans had impossible technology and weapons that could not exist. He begged for reinforcements before his entire fleet was destroyed. But the Council's homeworlds were light years away. No help would come in time. The alien fleet had to face the human attack alone, and they were losing badly. Ships that had terrorized 1,000 worlds burned in Earth's solar system, destroyed by enemies they could not even see. Captain Foster's stealth destroyer reappeared beside another alien battleship. Her quantum torpedoes punched through the alien shields like they were made of paper. The battleship's exotic matter core detonated, adding another star-bright explosion to the growing graveyard of alien ships. As the first day of battle ended, more than 300 alien ships had been destroyed or disabled. The mighty Galactic Council fleet that had come to crush humanity was running away, leaving their dead behind. The aliens had learned a terrible lesson. Humans were not the primitive species they appeared to be. Earth's orbital defenses had not fired a single shot. The planet's surface had not been touched. The alien ultimatum had become a trap, and the Council had walked straight into it. Humanity had struck first, struck hard, and struck from the shadows. The galaxy was about to learn that humans were very good at war. The alien fleet ran through space like wounded animals fleeing from a predator. Zexathari had managed to transfer his command to another ship before his flagship exploded, but he no longer felt like the hunter he had been just days before. Now he was the prey, and the humans were following him across 3 star systems like patient wolves. The Council fleet had lost nearly half its ships in the first battle around Earth. The surviving vessels were damaged and demoralized. Their crews had never experienced defeat before, and they did not know how to handle the fear that came with it. Some alien captains wanted to keep running until they reached the safety of Council space. Others wanted to turn and fight, hoping to restore their honor with one decisive victory. Commander Jake Sullivan stood on the bridge of the Liberty and watched the alien fleet through his telescopes. The enemy ships were spread across a wide area of space, their formations broken and confused. Jake had been hunting the aliens for 2 weeks now, striking at stragglers and supply ships while avoiding the main battle groups. The human pursuit fleet was much smaller than the alien force, but it moved like a pack of hunters who knew their prey was wounded. Captain Amy Foster's stealth destroyers appeared without warning, destroyed their targets, and vanished before the aliens could respond. The invisible ships had become legends of terror among the surviving alien crews. Jake's conventional ships provided the anvil while Amy's stealth ships were the hammer. The aliens would run from the visible human fleet, only to crash into invisible destroyers waiting in ambush. Every day brought new disasters for the Council forces. Every jump to a new star system revealed more human ships waiting for them. The Corvan Empire decided to intervene when news of the alien defeats reached their homeworlds. The Corvan were another founding member of the Galactic Council, and they had never lost a battle in their 1,000-year history. Their emperor sent 3 battle fleets to reinforce the failing offensive against Earth. Admiral Lisa Carter received the intelligence reports about the incoming Corvan fleets with satisfaction rather than fear. The Corvan ships were even older than the Veltar vessels, and their tactics had not changed in centuries. They believed their massive dreadnoughts were unstoppable because no enemy had ever found a way to destroy them. Engineer Pete Johnson had been working around the clock to prepare a special welcome for the Corvan Empire. The quantum disruption, torpedoes that had worked so well against Veltar ships, would be even more effective against the larger Corvan vessels. The bigger the ship, the more exotic matter it needed for power, and the bigger the explosion when that matter was disrupted. The first Corvan fleet arrived in the Proxima system expecting to find the remnants of human resistance. Instead, they found a carefully prepared trap. Pete's new antimatter mines had been scattered throughout the system, disguised as normal space debris. When the massive Corvan dreadnoughts entered the system, they sailed directly into the most deadly minefield ever created. The antimatter explosions tore through the Corvan formation like invisible hands ripping apart paper dolls. Ships that had conquered 100 worlds died in seconds, their hulls vaporized by reactions that turned matter directly into energy. The few surviving Corvan vessels fled in panic, broadcasting warnings about human superweapons to anyone who would listen. General Ryan Murphy watched the destruction of the Second Corvan fleet with grim satisfaction. The aliens kept sending their forces against humanity one fleet at a time, never learning from their mistakes. Each new enemy force that arrived expected to face primitive humans with crude weapons. Each one was destroyed by technology they did not understand. Colonel Steve Barnes led his powered armor marines in raids against alien supply bases, scattered across a dozen star systems. The aliens had built these bases to support their invasion of Earth, but now they became targets for human ground forces. Steve's marines could move through space in their armor, boarding alien stations and capturing valuable technology and intelligence. The alien bases were designed to be defended against space attacks, not ground assaults by super soldiers. Steve's marines cut through alien security forces like a hot knife through butter. Each raid revealed more information about Council weaknesses and more examples of their overconfidence. Dr. Helen Brooks studied the captured alien technology and found exactly what she had expected to find. The Council species had been using the same basic designs for thousands of years. They had grown comfortable with their superiority and stopped innovating. Their weapons were powerful but predictable. Their defenses were strong but inflexible. The aliens had made the mistake of believing their own propaganda about human primitiveness. They had convinced themselves that humans were just another backward species that would crumble at the first show of force. This blindness had led them into a war they were not prepared to fight. Zexathari tried to rally his surviving forces for one final battle, but his crews no longer trusted their weapons or their leaders. Too many ships had died to invisible attackers. Too many fleets had been destroyed by weapons that should not exist. The mighty Galactic Council was learning what it felt like to be helpless. The alien commander sent desperate messages to the Council's homeworlds begging for more reinforcements and better weapons, but the Council's other member species were beginning to question whether the war against Earth was worth the cost. Entire fleets were disappearing, and the humans seemed to be getting stronger with each battle. President Alex Romano addressed the United Nations and the world as reports of victory after victory reached Earth. The planet that had been sentenced to death just weeks before was now dictating terms to a galactic empire. Human technology and human determination had turned the tables completely. Alex announced that Earth would not be satisfied with just defending itself. The Galactic Council had threatened to commit genocide against humanity. Such crimes could not go unpunished. The human fleet would pursue the aliens all the way back to their homeworlds if necessary. Captain Foster's stealth destroyers began appearing in Council space itself, striking at military installations and government facilities. The aliens who had planned to destroy Earth now found their own worlds under attack by invisible enemies. The fear that had been spreading through their military forces now reached their civilian populations. The Third Corvan fleet lasted exactly 4 hours after entering human-controlled space. Jake Sullivan had learned to coordinate his conventional ships with Amy's stealth destroyers in perfect harmony. The aliens faced attacks from directions they could see and strikes from ships they could not detect. Their formation collapsed under the coordinated assault. As the human fleet pushed deeper into Council territory, more and more alien species began to question their membership in the galactic government. Some worlds tried to negotiate separate peace treaties with Earth. Others simply withdrew their ships from the war and closed their borders to Council forces. The Galactic Council that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years was falling apart. Under pressure from a single human world, species that had been allies for millennia now blamed each other for the disaster. The unity that had made the Council strong was dissolving in the face of human resistance. Zexathari's remaining ships made one last desperate jump toward the Nexus, the heavily fortified capital of the Galactic Council. If they could reach that ancient stronghold, they might find safety behind defenses that had never been breached. But they did not know that human stealth ships were already there, waiting in the shadows around the most important world in the galaxy. The Nexus had been the center of galactic power for 10,000 years. The massive space station orbited a star at the heart of Council territory, surrounded by defensive platforms that could destroy entire fleets. No enemy had ever come within a light year of the Nexus and lived to tell about it. The Council's leaders had always believed their capital was absolutely safe. But Captain Amy Foster's stealth destroyer hung invisible just a few miles from the Nexus itself, studying the ancient defenses with sensors the aliens could not detect. Amy had been mapping the system for weeks, finding weak points in defenses that had never been tested in real combat. The Council's arrogance had made them careless, even about protecting their most important installation. Admiral Lisa Carter coordinated the final assault from her flagship as it approached the Nexus system with the main human fleet. Behind her came every available human ship, including vessels that had been built in secret shipyards throughout the war. Earth's entire military might was focused on this one target, the heart of the empire that had tried to destroy humanity, Sun. Battle of the Nexus began before dawn on the station's artificial day cycle. Amy's stealth destroyers struck the outer defensive platforms while they were still invisible to alien sensors. Quantum torpedoes tore through shields that had been designed to stop conventional weapons. The platforms that had protected the Nexus for millennia died in the first minutes of the attack. Colonel Steve Barnes led his powered armor Marines in the first ground assault on the Nexus itself. His troops used boarding pods that could cut through the station's hull like it was made of paper. Once inside, the Marines moved through corridors that had never seen combat, heading for the central command centers where the Council's leaders were hiding. The alien defenders were not prepared for soldiers who could move like machines and fight like demons. Steve's Marines cut through security forces that had only ever dealt with political protests and ceremonial duties. The Council had grown so confident in their space defenses that they had forgotten to prepare for enemies who might actually reach their capital. Zexthari arrived with his battered fleet just as the human assault reached its peak. The Veltar commander had hoped to find safety behind the Nexus defenses, but instead, he found those defenses already burning. Human ships swarmed around the great station like angry insects, tearing apart installations that had stood for centuries. The crystalline alien tried to rally the Nexus defenders, but his own fleet was too damaged to be effective. His ships had been running and fighting for weeks, and his crews were exhausted and demoralized. Many of his captains ignored his orders and fled toward the outer edges of the system, hoping to escape before the humans found them. Commander Jake Sullivan brought the Liberty alongside one of the Nexus docking bays and led his own boarding party into the station. Jake had been fighting the aliens for months, and he wanted to see their capital fall with his own eyes. His Marines joined Steve's powered armor troops in the assault on the central government complex. The Council chamber itself was a vast sphere, where representatives from dozens of species had met to decide the fate of worlds. Jake entered that chamber just as the last Council guards were laying down their weapons. The ancient room was filled with smoke and the sound of human boots marching across floors that had never been walked on by enemies. Dr. Helen Brooks established contact with resistance movements on dozens of worlds as news of the Council's defeat spread across the galaxy. Species that had been enslaved for centuries began to revolt against their alien masters. The fall of the Nexus had broken the chains that bound entire civilizations to the Council's will. The captured alien leaders were brought before President Alex Romano in a ceremony that was broadcast to every world in known space. The beings who had sentenced humanity to death now faced judgment themselves. Some begged for mercy, others demanded the rights they had denied to countless other species. Alex's response was broadcast in 100 languages to 1,000 worlds. He told the galaxy that Earth had not fought this war for conquest or revenge. Humanity had fought for the right to exist and for the freedom of all thinking beings. The age of the Galactic Council was over, but the age of freedom was just beginning. Engineer Pete Johnson worked with captured alien scientists to understand the full scope of the Council's crimes. For 10,000 years, the galactic government had destroyed any species that showed too much independence or creativity. Entire civilizations had been wiped out because they asked the wrong questions or developed the wrong technologies. The genetic records found in the Nexus databanks told the story of hundreds of extinct species. Each one had been judged by the Council and found wanting. Each one had been eliminated to maintain the stability of galactic civilization. The aliens called it peace, but it was really just the silence of the grave. General Ryan Murphy oversaw the occupation of key council installations throughout their territory. Human forces moved quickly to secure weapons stockpiles and prevent any organized counterattacks. The aliens, who had seemed so powerful just months before now, surrendered without fighting to troops they had once dismissed as primitives. The speed of the Council's collapse surprised even human military leaders. The Galactic Empire had seemed unbeatable, but it had been built on fear rather than loyalty. When that fear was broken by human victories, the entire structure fell apart like a house of cards in a strong wind. Captain Foster's stealth destroyers appeared over Council homeworlds to accept their surrender. The invisible ships that had terrorized alien fleets now served as symbols of the new order. Species that had obeyed the Council for thousands of years now took orders from humans they could not even see. Colonel Barnes led the occupation forces that took control of the Council's vast archives. The records they found revealed the true history of galactic civilization, a history of oppression and genocide hidden behind propaganda about peace and order. The Council had not been protectors of civilization. They had been its greatest enemy. Sexithari was captured trying to escape in a damaged shuttle. The proud Veltar commander who had come to destroy Earth now sat in a human prison cell, his crystalline body dim with defeat. When asked why the Council had feared humanity so much, his answer revealed the truth that had driven the war. The aliens had recognized something in humans that they had tried to destroy in themselves: the drive to grow, to change, to challenge authority when it was wrong. The Council species had given up these qualities in exchange for stability and safety. When they saw humans still possess them, they knew their static empire was doomed. The Galactic Federation that replaced the Council was based on principles that humans had learned through centuries of struggle on Earth. Every species would have equal rights and representation. No world would be forced to join or forced to obey laws they had no part in making. The galaxy would be ruled by consent rather than conquest. Dr. Brooks became the first human ambassador to the liberated worlds, helping former Council slaves rebuild their civilizations and rediscover technologies they had been forbidden to develop. The galaxy began to change and grow again after 10,000 years of enforced stagnation. Years later, historians would mark the Battle of the Nexus as the moment when the galaxy truly began to live again. The Council's sterile peace had been replaced by the creative chaos of freedom. Some worlds struggled with their new independence, but all of them were free to try. Earth had gone to war to defend itself against genocide, but it had ended up liberating an entire galaxy. The species that the Council had tried to destroy as too dangerous had instead proven too valuable to lose. Humanity's gift to the galaxy was not conquest but freedom, the most dangerous and most precious gift of all.